English Vibes Podcast. English Listening Practice.
Slowly, I began learning more recipes and improving my cooking skills. Learning to cook wasn't easy, but it was definitely rewarding. Now, I can prepare several dishes that I truly enjoy, and I feel proud of the progress I've made. It reminds me that learning something new takes patience and practice. It's okay if things don't go perfectly at first. What matters is that you keep trying. Have you ever had to learn something new, like cooking, driving, or even a new language? When you talk about your learning experiences, you can use phrases like, I decided to learn. I started with, and I made progress. These phrases are helpful when explaining how you learned something. Let's listen to these phrases in the story. I decided to learn how to cook. Over time, I made progress and learned more recipes. I started with simple dishes like pasta. Notice how I used I decided, I started with, and I made progress. These phrases are great for describing how you learn something new. You can use them when talking about your own learning experiences too. Think about a time when you learned something new. You can use them when talking about your own learning experiences too. Think about a time when you learned something new. How did you feel at the beginning? What steps did you take to improve? Try using these phrases to share your experience in English. Learning new things can be challenging, but it's also a great opportunity to practice English. The more you practice describing your experiences, the more comfortable you'll feel speaking and writing in English. Keep practicing, and you'll keep improving. Now, let's talk about something many people have to do from time to time: cleaning the house. Have you ever had a big cleaning project, like organizing a room or tidying up your entire home? It's something that can be both exhausting and satisfying at the same time. Last weekend, I decided to clean my kitchen. It had been a while since I did a deep cleaning, and it was starting to feel a bit messy. The counters had crumbs, and the floor needed a good scrub. I decided to take my time and clean everything carefully. I started by wiping down all the surfaces. Then I cleaned the stove and sink. After that, I organized the cabinets and threw away any old food. It took a few hours, but by the end, the kitchen looked so much better. I felt proud of the work I had done. Cleaning is something many of us do regularly. It's a simple task, but it can be made easier by taking it step by step. When you clean your house, you can describe it using phrases like, I decided to clean, I started by, and it took time, but it was worth it. These phrases help explain your cleaning process. Let's listen to these phrases. I decided to clean my kitchen. I started by wiping down all the surfaces. It took a few hours, but it was worth it. Notice how I used, I decided to clean. I started by, and it took time, but it was worth it. These phrases are useful when talking about tasks you do around the house. You can use them to explain how you handle cleaning or organizing tasks. Think about the last time you cleaned something in your home. What steps did you take? How did you feel after you finished? Use these phrases to tell your story in English. Next, let's talk about an activity that many people find both enjoyable and beneficial: exercising. Regular physical activity is essential for maintaining good health and feeling energetic. Have you ever started an exercise routine? It can be challenging at first, but over time, it becomes a rewarding habit. A few months ago, I decided to start exercising more regularly. Started with short workouts, like stretching and light cardio. Over time, I made progress and increased my endurance. At first, it was tough, but I kept going, and eventually I felt stronger and more confident. Let's look at some useful phrases for talking about exercise. I decided to start exercising. I started with short workouts. Over time, I made progress and felt stronger. These phrases can help you describe your fitness journey.
Think about your own experiences with exercise.
What activities did you try? How did you feel after working out? Let's explore another important activity: reading. Reading books, articles, or even short stories can be a great way to learn new things and improve your language skills. Have you ever tried to read in a different language or challenge yourself with a more complex book? A few months ago, I decided to start reading more books in English. At first, it was difficult because I didn't understand every word. I started with simple books and used a dictionary to help me. Over time, I made progress and felt more comfortable reading longer texts. Now I enjoy reading novels and learning new words along the way. Let's look at some useful phrases for talking about reading. I decided to start reading more books. I started with simple books and used a dictionary. Over time, I made progress and felt more comfortable reading. Think about your own reading experience. Have you ever read a book in another language? How did you feel at the beginning? Try using these phrases to describe your journey. Now, let's talk about a common, but sometimes challenging skill: public speaking. Many people feel nervous when they have to speak in front of an audience, but with practice, it becomes easier. Last year, I decided to improve my public speaking skills. I started with small presentations in front of friends. At first, I was very nervous, but over time, I made progress and gained confidence. Now, I feel much more comfortable speaking in front of people. Here are some phrases you can use to describe learning public speaking. I decided to improve my public speaking skills. I started with small presentations. Over time, I made progress and gained confidence. Think about a time when you had to speak in front of others. How did you feel? How did you improve? Use these phrases to describe your experience. Next, let's talk about learning a musical instrument. Playing an instrument can be both challenging and rewarding. It takes patience, practice, and dedication. A few years ago, I decided to learn how to play the guitar. I started with simple chords and practiced every day. Over time, I made progress and learned to play full songs. At first, it was frustrating, but I kept practicing, and now I can play with confidence. Here are some useful phrases for talking about learning an instrument. I decided to learn how to play the guitar. I started with simple chords and practiced every day. Over time, I made progress and learned to play full songs. Have you ever tried to play a musical instrument? How did you feel at the beginning? Use these phrases to describe your experience. I decided to learn how to cook Japanese food. I started with simple recipes like miso soup. Over time, I made progress and learned more complex dishes. Think about a time when you tried Cooking something new. What did you make? How did it turn out? Use these phrases to tell your story. Next, let's talk about an essential life skill: time management. Managing time effectively can help you stay organized and reduce stress. A few months ago, I decided to improve my time management skills. I started by making daily to-do lists. At first, it was difficult to follow a schedule, but over time, I made progress and became more productive. Now, I feel more in control of my time. Here are some phrases to describe. Learning time management. I decided to improve my time management skills. I started by making daily to-do lists. Over time, I made progress and became more productive. Have you ever worked on managing your time better? What strategies did you use? Use these phrases to explain your experience. Finally, let's talk about learning to swim. Swimming is not only a great way to stay fit, but also an important life skill. Last summer, I decided to learn how to swim. I started with basic floating exercises in shallow water. Over time, I made progress and learned different strokes. At first, I was afraid of deep water, but with practice, I became more confident. Here are some phrases to describe this experience. I decided to learn how to swim. I started with basic floating exercises. Over time, I made progress and learned different strokes. Have you ever learned how to swim? How did you feel in the beginning? Use these phrases to share your experience. Keep practicing, and remember, every small step brings you closer to mastering the language. You're doing great.